Mike Pompeo has become the first U.S. Secretary of State to visit an Israeli WestBank settlement and the Golan Heights, in a parting show of solidarity on Thursday that the Palestinians said would help Israel cement its grip on occupied territory. Pompeo first met with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem on what could be his last official tour of the Middle East in the final months of the Trump administration. The top U.S. diplomat then traveled to the Israeli-occupied West Bank and toured the Sagot winery, announcing new guidelines for Israeli products made in settlements and destined for the United States, saying they could be labeled Made in Israel instead of distinguishing them. Pompeo, an evangelical Christian, also broke with decades of U.S. policy by saying the United States no longer viewed Israel's settlements in the West Bank as inconsistent with international law. Then, Pompeo visited the Golan Heights. Trump delighted Israel last year by recognizing Israel's claim to sovereignty over the part of the Golan Heights it captured from Syria in a 1967 war and later annexed, a move that was not recognized by most of the international community. But Pompeo Thursday echoed that support.
You can't stand here and stare out at what's across the border and deny the central thing that President Trump recognized that previous presidents had refused to do, that this is a part of Israel, and a central part of Israel.
Syria quickly condemned the visit as provocative, while a spokesman for Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas said that by visiting the settlements, Pompeo was actively participating in the occupation. Top U.S. officials had previously stayed away from the settlements, which are built on land the Palestinians want for a future state. The Palestinians, who boycotted the Trump administration for the better part of 3 years, accusing it of pro-Israel bias, have indicated they'll resume normal ties with the United States when President-elect Joe Biden takes office. But it is unclear how many of Trump's decisions, which also included moving the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem, a Biden administration would reverse.
Secretary of the State, a great friend of Israel, Mrs. Pompeo, the ambassador. We just had a great visit and I think briefing about the Golan Heights. I would like to take the opportunity to thank both the President Trump and the Secretary for their long support for the security and the fate of the State of Israel. The Secretary made an historic visit to the Golan Heights, I think first ever to hear. He, as a former head of the CIA, he know the facts, but he insisted to come to see firsthand and to hear the briefing from the military commanders and to hear from our legendary hero Kahalani what happened. In his background, he was an officer, armored officer, so he knew the story. But and I think there is no need to explain when you stand here what's the strategic importance of the Golan Heights. So thank you for recognizing the sovereignty of the State of Israel. Thank you for coming and really appreciate it. תודה רבה לשר החוץ האמריקאי, לשגריר, לרעייתו שבאו לכאן לרמת הגולן. הוא התעקש לבוא לכאן, זה ביקור היסטורי, פעם ראשונה שאישיות כל כך בכירה של הממשל האמריקאי מבקרת ברמת הגולן, לא רק מכירה בה אלא גם מסיירת בה. המזכיר רצה לבוא לשמוע את המפקדים, לראות את השטח, לעמוד מקרוב על ההתפתחויות. אני רוצה להודות לשגריר, לנשיא, על ההכרה ברמת הגולן, על כל התמיכה היוצאת מן הכלל שהם מפגינים במשך שנים למדינת ישראל. מדינת ישראל בטוחה יותר כתוצאה מהתמיכה האמריקאית, ואני מודה באופן אישי למזכיר המדינה, לנשיא, לשגריר, על כל מה שישראל, אזרחיה, חייבים לה. תודה רבה.
Thank you. Thank you. 35 years ago, as a young cadet, I studied about this very place, this amazing and important piece of real estate. You can't stand here and stare out at what's across the border and deny the central thing that President Trump recognized that previous presidents had refused to do, that this is a part of Israel, and a central part of Israel. I remember, too, not long after I was a cadet, I was an officer in the United States Army, and I remember the international pressure to return this very place to Syria. It was all the rage in the salons in Europe and in the elite institutions in America to say that this should be returned to Syria. Imagine with Assad in control of this place, the risk, the harm to the West and to Israel and to the people of Israel. President Trump just recognized the basic fact that this indeed is part of Israel, and it was an honor to be here. It was an honor to be here with General Kalani and to hear the story, the famous Battle of the Valley of Tears fought here, where as a younger officer he saved this great nation. So it's great to be here with you. I told the Prime Minister that I very much wanted to come here on this trip to tell the world that we have it right, that we, the United States, has it right, and that Israel has it right, and that each nation has the right to defend itself and its own sovereignty, and that the United States of America and the Trump administration will continue to do all that we can to make sure that Israel has what it needs to do just that. And we will honor your right to defend your own people. So thank you very much, Mr. Foreign Minister, for being with me, and thank you all for joining us out here today. Thanks.
Thank you.